City Council votes on this facility to serve as a permanent year-round shelter for our unhoused neighbors here in Long Beach. This important milestone for our city would not be possible without the shared vision and commitment of LA County Supervisor Janice Hahn, LA County CEO Fecia Davenport, Councilwoman Mary Zendejas, Jeff Levine, Executive Director of Long Beach Rescue Mission, the Long Beach Rescue Mission Board, and of course, our dedicated health department, city staff, and community. When we decided to explore this opportunity, I called the county to ask for their support on this crucial acquisition, and they answered the call. The call went, "Hey, Supervisor, we have this opportunity." She said, "Okay, all right, can we split it?" I said, let's talk to the team. I think we can.
I said yes.
I said, well, I think we can. They offered to match our $6.7 million commitment with a $6.5 million commitment of their own. And this is a combination of Measure H in the county, Measure A in the city of Long Beach, and our general fund dollars. So I want to start by thanking Supervisor Janice Hahn and CEO Fecia Davenport for your partnership. One of the most important tools that the city of Long Beach has used to move people off the streets and onto a path towards security and stability has been the operation of our temporary winter shelter site here in Long Beach. And for many years, we've worked to identify suitable locations each and every year to run our annual winter shelter program, jumping between community and community and district by district in hopes of finding a facility that could accommodate the needs of an emergency shelter. But no more will we jump from community to community by beginning to take the necessary steps to acquire this property. Our emergency shelter program during the winter will now have a permanent home where we'll be able to provide life-saving services and support to some of our most vulnerable residents here in Long Beach. I want to take a moment to thank the neighbors and the residents who came out in support of this location for their generosity and their support. And I want to offer an enthusiastic thanks to Councilwoman Mary Zendejas for her bold and outstanding leadership in building long-term solutions to invest in dignity for our unhoused neighbors. We know that when we invest in dignity for our unhoused neighbors, we're also investing in quality of life for our whole city. This year, when we experienced severe winter storms, and I have no doubt that our winter shelter program helped protect and save countless lives from the elements, from this extreme weather. And we know that homelessness is not simply a seasonal challenge. Many of our highest need residents experience housing insecurity all year round. And as climate change continues to impact our communities, we're likely to continue to see extreme weather conditions throughout the year. Downpours in the winter, extreme heat in the summer. By securing a permanent location for our interim shelter on this site, we'll be well equipped to protect our vulnerable unhoused neighbors from these extreme weather conditions and to make sure that we're prepared all year round. Now, since we declared a state of emergency on homelessness in January, we've continued to work diligently to expand the number of temporary shelter beds and interim units, outreach services in our city, housing opportunities to meet the needs of our residents who are unhoused. And we've made great progress over these past 5.5 months. But we can't rest on our laurels. As we prepare for the gradual transition out of the state of emergency, we will lean in on this new ongoing interim site as a key city asset as we continue to manage this crisis called homelessness and connect individuals experiencing homelessness to permanent housing solutions. This is not just a big challenge. This is a big opportunity to rally our communities together, to ensure that all families and all individuals can live with dignity. Now is our moment to tackle this humanitarian crisis of our time by working together across jurisdictional lines, hand in hand with our county partners, to share resources and streamline smart solutions that will help permanently uplift our most vulnerable residents who've fallen through the cracks and chart a new future for our region that is centered on partnership and equity. Once again, I want to thank all of our city partners who have stepped up in responding to this crisis, our county partners who are stepping up with funding and ensuring that Long Beach remains a place where no one is left behind. And now I want to hand it over to 1st District Councilwoman, whose district we are in today, Councilwoman Mary Zendejas.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And good afternoon, everyone. It is an honor to be here today as we announce our anticipated acquisition of this property as part of our emergency response efforts to address the homelessness crisis we are living in today. We are here today outside of our temporary emergency shelter, which since began operations on April 27th and has filled a critical need in providing shelter and case management services to people experiencing homelessness since the winter shelter program concluded operations earlier this spring. Before we finalize plans to open this emergency shelter, we hosted a community meeting just around the corner at Drake Park Community Center to share our proposed plans with our community. At this meeting, participants were able to ask questions, engage in discussion, and share their feedback. And we were very pleased to have been met with such an overwhelming positivity. In fact, participants at this meeting expressed their recommendation to not just open a temporary shelter, but to make the shelter permanent. I'm happy to stand here today and share that we are upholding that commitment. Our acquisition and use of this property will allow us to continue to provide much needed relief to our residents who are unhoused. It will offer safe, secured sleeping environments for people to rest their heads and case management services to get them back on their feet and connected to permanent housing. I express my sincere thanks to the Board of Supervisors for their commitment to this effort and to our mayor of my city and my fellow colleagues on council for their support. And I look forward to bringing this forward on Tuesday. I am honored to welcome this new city asset to our community, and I look forward to the positive impact it will have on the whole city. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much to our champion, Councilwoman Zendejas. Next, I'll hand it over to our benefactor, our supervisor, our friend to Long Beach, Supervisor Janice Hahn.
Well, thank you very much. It's so wonderful to be with Mayor Richardson, Council Member Zendejas. You know, when somebody is ready to leave their tent or their sidewalk and come inside, we can't be in the position where we tell them, sorry, there isn't a bed for you tonight, maybe next week, because that might be our only chance to reach them and have them be ready and willing to come inside. If we're going to get a handle on this homelessness crisis, we need reliable interim shelter beds that we can use at a moment's notice to help a person off the streets to get a roof over their head, and as you said, have a place to lay their head at night, get some rest in a safe, quiet environment. And that's why purchasing this property is so important. It's going to be an asset in our effort to bring people inside here in Long Beach. I applaud you, Mayor Richardson. I applaud you, Councilwoman Zendejas, for your leadership in this effort. I'm proud that we could bring $6.5 million in county funding and specifically Measure H dollars to make this deal work. And you're right. I'll never forget that phone call. And you gave me like a big number. And you said, can you do this? And it just came to me to say, can we split this? And you immediately said, let's make a deal. And that's why we're here today. And I shared your Mayor Richardson's feeling that Long Beach needed a greater share of Measure H dollars because the residents of Long Beach voted for Measure H, and they're supplying a lot of the tax dollars for this. So you need to be a beneficiary of that. And this is an opportunity that we're locking arms, right? The city of Long Beach, the county of Los Angeles, we are locking arms together. And a lot of people say, What does declaring an emergency mean? We declared a state of emergency for homelessness in LA County. The city of Long Beach declared a state of emergency. And people wonder, what does that mean? This is what it means. This is what it means. And your city manager, Tom, and my CEO, Fiza Davenport, they used that authority under the emergency proclamation to make this happen quickly. And I really thank all of you for making this happen. Standing inside there and standing on that logo and remembering Jesse James and the West Coast Choppers, went from that to Union Rescue Mission, and now the purpose of this forever will really be helping people and, as you said, getting them back on their feet and back in our community. So congratulations to everyone. I have a check. So congratulations. Should we get out here in front?
Just go ahead and give it to Jeff now.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Supervisor Janice Hahn. Or did you have anything else?
No, that's
okay.
it.
Thank you so much. We will now hand it over to our Homeless Service Bureau Manager, Paul Duncan, to talk through a bit about the details of this new proposed site.
Thank you, Mayor Richardson, and thank you, Supervisor Hahn. Hello, everyone. My name is Paul Duncan, and I am the manager of the Homeless Services Bureau within the Department of Health and Human Services here for the City of Long Beach. I'm pleased to stand alongside our city and county leaders to share the announcement and the great news in our efforts to purchase this building. Interim shelters are critical components to addressing the immediate needs of people, while we as a city and county continue to work towards addressing the factors that are leading to people falling into homelessness, while also working to bring more resources to get people into permanent situations and ultimately end their homelessness. Our interim housing programs offer safe spaces for people to sleep at night and in an environment that is compatible for people starting to heal from their trauma, and basic needs like restrooms, showers, and daily meals. Meeting those basic needs, coupled with case management services, allow people the time and the stability and connections and resources to work through their issues and the challenges that they might be experiencing in their life and take the next step forward. While the city has significantly increased the number of locally funded interim beds since 2020, there's still a gap in the number of permanent year-round beds. So this adds to that capacity while we work on a number of other projects. So we have 3 other projects in the works that will also be coming on over the next year. So this continues to add to our overall capacity. And this is really why this is an important step, both in identifying, and what's one of the reasons that we identified in the short-term goals within our emergency proclamation, that we really needed interim solutions while we work towards permanent ones. And this is that step forward in having a permanent solution to meet the immediate needs. It will offer a safe place for people to sleep. Again, while we work towards permanent housing, this place, having served as a winter shelter in the past, makes it an ideal location and is really set up for future conversion, really to be a place where people can be successful, that really has that environment. So we do look forward to really making this place a space that people feel welcome, that people feel heard. So again, thank you to our mayor, city council, the LA Board of Supervisors, and their commitment to this cause. And also thank you to our partners, Long Beach Rescue Mission, throughout this process and allowing us to be here on an interim basis. And also thank you to First to Serve for providing the services throughout winter shelter and through our temporary shelter here. So we look forward to the work ahead.
All right. Thank you, Paul. And now we'll hear from our partner, Executive Director of the Long Beach Rescue Mission, Jeff Levine. And before we introduce Jeff, I'll just say, it's incredible that the way that the timing of all this lined up to be able to not only acquire a building, but to also support a local organization, the Long Beach Rescue Mission, who's been an incredible partner to the city of Long Beach on the front line of our efforts to build capacity to manage homelessness for many, many years. And so we couldn't have found a better partner in this effort. And we are excited about what opportunities this partnership will create. Jeff.
Well, on behalf of the Long Beach Rescue Mission Board of Directors, I want to say thank you to Supervisor Hahn and to Mayor Rex Richardson. Mary, it's been so great since I've stepped into the role to spend time with you and to see your heart for our district, and Paul, having worked together for many years. It is exciting for us as an organization to see how God is providing to meet the needs that we have in order to accomplish the vision that he's given us. Long Beach Rescue Mission has been around for 50 years, and it began with a young couple walking around downtown, seeing people experiencing homelessness and feeling prompted by God to create a space to serve them. And so they walked around downtown praying for God's provision, praying for clarity as to how to accomplish this. And what began as a 40-bed shelter for men that shared a wall with a local dive bar that they would pull people out of and into their shelter has now expanded to a 150-bed shelter for men and a 50-bed shelter for women and children. I love the mission. I've been there 17 years. I tell people I grew up there. I started when I was 25. I had no experience working with the unhoused. And for some, it feels like a foreign language, where for me it feels like a native tongue. People ask me about my time at the mission, and I tell them it's like breathing. These are people that are made in the image of God. They deserve dignity. They have intrinsic value that's independent of anything they've done, anything that's happened to them, and are deserving of a community to come around them, to believe in them, to invest in them. And so for us, God has given us a clear vision. We need to expand the number of beds that we have for women and children. For as long as I've been connected to the mission, our Lydia House has been at capacity. Now, it's a 50-bed shelter. Don't tell the mayor that there's probably 58, 59 people there right now, because we'll take over the playroom, because we don't want to turn away families, but we turn away 5 to 6 families a day. We have women and children sleeping in their cars waiting for something to open up, and we're not okay with that. And we feel like God has given us the ability, equipped us with the tools to be able to provide leadership in that. And so we're in the architectural plan phase of developing a new 60-bed shelter for women and children. My prayer, my hope, is that we'll have this open in 2026 and we can have a greater impact. Later this year, we're going to be developing a strip mall that we own into a 15-bed shelter for men with disabilities. When our Samaritan house was built in the late 80s, the ADA requirements were different. And so we've only got 2 beds that are downstairs. So every day we turn away men who can't get up and down the stairs to get to our beds. And we're not okay with that. And so God has provided in incredible ways. And I think about this arrangement. And you can't ask for a better arrangement. You've got a city and a county that are committed to alleviating the suffering of those experiencing homelessness in our cities. And you have an organization that has devoted itself to the same thing. And so now you've got dollars that are coming in that our community is given, and they're adding additional beds to serve people experiencing homelessness. And those resources are going directly into more homeless services. It's a win-win. And for us, it's an answer to prayer. As a Christian faith-based organization, prayer is central to what we do. And the sovereignty of God, the belief that he is at work orchestrating these things. This didn't happen by chance. You can't convince me that. You can't convince our board that. And so what I want to do in closing is just pray. I want to ask God's blessing over this process. City Council has the opportunity to kick this around, and I know that they're excited. They're excited for the collaborative work that we've been able to do. And just that we would see a reduction in people experiencing homelessness, and certainly we want to see the numbers change. But we want to see hearts changed, and lives changed, and families restored, and addicts recovering, and people who've experienced abuse healing. Because it's not just a housing issue, it's not just an employment issue, it's a heart issue. And that's the way that we've always seen it. So God, I come to you just thanking you for the way that you've been at work in this process, and a lot of behind the scenes conversations, collaborations. I know I can speak from our perspective as an organization, what a wonderful experience it was and is working with our city. Jesus, we love this city. You love this city. And you've given us such a privileged position to be able to provide leadership in this area. And to do that collaboratively, to know we're all pulling in the same direction, is such a joy. And so I pray your hand would be over this transaction, that you would bring it to a right and righteous conclusion, and that we would be able to serve for many years until you return, Jesus, with faithfulness and obedience and joy and love in our hearts. Jesus, you taught us to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. You didn't say love our neighbor who has walls around them. You didn't say love our neighbors who think like us, who vote like us, who act like us. You said love our neighbor. And so we want to be faithful and obedient to that. So we ask these things in your name, Jesus. Amen.
All right. So before we move to questions, I just want to highlight what Jeff said. This partnership, Supervisor, and the resources we were able to pull together, it will have double the impact. We're recycling those dollars. So by working with the rescue mission, they're able to take those proceeds and expand the amount of shelter available here in Long Beach. So so say double up. Double up, right? We're doubling up here. So we're going to move. We're going to take questions. I'm going to invite Tom and Eric, our incident commander, public works director, city managers, to join us. And we'll just see if there are any questions about what we all heard today.
So just a clarification on terms. So when you say interim shelter versus permanent shelter, you mean like a seasonal shelter for the winter, and now this will be run year-round?
Year-round.
Will people be able to basically move in, leave their belongings, or is it still going to be arrive in the morning, leave in the morning? Or I don't know how
So
it goes.
we'll invite Paul to talk about the day-to-day operation.
Yeah. We no longer have any shelters where people are required to leave in the day and then line up in the evening. So people will have their reserved bed, that is their bed for the time that they need it, while they work towards their goals and get into permanent housing. So the site will be open 24 hours a day. People can go in the day and leave their stuff while they work on whatever they're needing to work on.
And then meanwhile, a lot of homeless people say, unhoused people say, I don't want to go into a shelter because I have many pets, like more than one dog. What happens to people like those?
Yeah, so we currently, if you were to walk inside, you'd see that there are a number of people in here with dogs. So we do provide dog crates that people can have right next to their bed. If it's a service animal, they can sleep outside of that crate with the participant at the shelter. So we don't want any barriers for people to come in. So if people have their pet, we want to make sure that they're able to come in. The shelter provides dog food and other needs for pets. As we look at redoing this, we'll also make sure that we're adding in a outside pet area where pets can come out, they can do their thing. So we want nothing to get in the way of people coming in.
But a resident could have, say, more than one dog?
Typically, we try to keep it to one dog.
Okay.
If we have to and it's not, unmanageable, that's something that we'll look at. We also do have some interim option or some shelter options where people have their own room, so that might be more conducive to somebody that has two dogs.
So, and I'm sorry if anybody wants to grab this mic, but so what happens when you retrofit, or what is happening in terms of like a remodel in order to make this the permanent
For
shelter?
that question, we'll bring our public works director, Eric Lopez.
Thank you. That's a great question. Part of the transaction does involve a set amount for capital improvements. We're going to be looking at the HVAC system. We're looking at plumbing repairs, some electrical repairs. There's some needs on the roof, so we're also going to be doing some roof repairs. While we're going to design and plan the repairs so that we don't displace anybody. People will continue to be able to use this facility while we're going and putting in the improvements that it needs in order for us to be able to use it for many, many years to come.
All right, thank you. Next question.
Previously, there was discussion about expanding beyond 85 beds. Is that still going to happen? And if so, what is the ultimate capacity going to be?
We still have to map it out. We do see capacity here potentially for more than 85 beds, which is what, I think we're at 85 here today. So we do see, I mean, this is a nice sized property. There's multiple buildings, or there's opportunities to sort of operate at one level during the winter and then go back to whatever our cruising level is during the summer and utilize the space for other things. You know, we would have to obviously consult with our community, but there's opportunities for sobering or other services that we could offer. So this gives us the opportunity to dream a little bit about what the real use and the best utilization of this facility is. Thank you.
Hi, I'm just wondering what happens to the temporary contract you have in place now on Tuesday. If you guys approve it, will it be superseded by the new contract, or will it be like an in-between period where you just finish out the one you have now and then the new one goes into place?
Tom, let's hear from our city manager, Tom.
So we do have a lease right now. We signed that under the emergency so we could get in very, very quickly. We worked with Jeff to make sure that we were able, while we were looking at some of the negotiation details, to get in here and start serving. That stays in place, and then we will go through the final transaction process. All this happened in about 3.5 months, which is pretty lightning speed, to get the funding, to do all that, and then we'll do the final building transaction. We're also going to be working with Jeff for probably another 90 days for them to use some of the great space behind you, where they do a lot of food pantry and feeding and donations exceptions. So it's been a good partnership.
That's good. Next question.
So we talked a little bit, or you talked about, Mayor, a little bit about winding down out of this state of emergency. We also have a lot of people we have the CSEA workers that are talking about they're not making a livable wage. We have a lot of people in Long Beach that are not making a livable wage and are just one paycheck away of needing these kind of services. How are you going to wind down out of the state of emergency when most people are one paycheck away from needing these types of services?
Well, I think I want to be clear that it's premature to sort of state that we're leaving the emergency. There's work that has to be done, but we've been very clear since the very beginning that we cannot live in a perpetual state of emergency, and that we're not going to end homelessness in a 6 to 9 month emergency period. We laid out goals that really expand our capacity to be able to manage this crisis better for a city of our size. That means doing things like expand outreach, which we've done. We've rolled out our mobile access center, and we're rolling out a second mobile access center. We're exploring and rolling out alternative crisis response models in our health department. We also have set goals around interim housing, interim shelter, which this is an example of that capacity. But if we're going to get to a place where we are not living in a perpetual state of emergency, we have to really do place a significant focus on prevention and on housing production. Because the reality is we as a city and as a region have to do a better job keeping people in their homes. We have to make sure that we produce housing. The region says that 1.3 million units of housing needs to be built in Southern California over the next decade. In Long Beach, that's 26,000 units. That's a lot of need. That means we have to work together to streamline processes. That means we have to identify revenue sources, and we need to all work together across the region to make it happen. And you see these conversations happening not just here in Long Beach, but even on the countywide level. The supervisor and I serve on La Casa, LA County Affordable Housing Solutions Agency, where we're exploring some of these big solutions. So this is a big regional problem, big regional solution, but my commitment is we're not going to exit the emergency until we see a very clear roadmap to get to the housing and the prevention, right? So we're going to be updating some of our plans and having that discussion very publicly. I will also say we're going to continue. We have our updates to the city council regularly. We'll continue doing those things. We do our updates regularly on Tuesdays, the live stream. So we've deployed an unprecedented level of communication. We're going to continue that until we've mapped out what our plan is as we transition out of the emergency. Thank you. Next question.
I know someone already asked about the rules around pets, but I'm just wondering with rules in general, a lot of people wonder whether there will be curfews, whether there will be able to visit other people's rooms, whether they'll be able to use substances. So can you elaborate on some of the other rules that might be in place that people might want to know?
Sure. So yes, there are rules in place that each participant, as they're coming in, will go over and sign an agreement that's already in place as it being an interim shelter at the moment. So yes, there is a curfew of when people are expected to be in, as well as time that they can start going out. Obviously, exceptions are made and accommodations if somebody's working. Obviously, we don't want somebody's work to be disrupted. Currently, men and women's areas are separated, and if somebody doesn't identify as neither singularly man or woman, we work with them to have them sleep where they feel most comfortable. And as we build it out, we'll have more separation between each bed, and people will really have a private space that feels like their own, and people can have areas where they can congregate. And lastly, around substance use, no substance use will be allowed within the building. What people do on the outside is really on them. It really comes down to behavior as they return. If somebody's being disruptive due to substance use, that could lead to them being exited. We always try to work with people and link them, and try to also have conversations if somebody's struggling with their substance use to look at options like treatment. We have a number of different programs within the county portfolio. So the County Substance Abuse and Prevention and Control program has a number of different treatment options. So we try to get people linked to that as much as we can.
Add about the drop-off, pickup, intake.
Currently we have a shuttle running 7 days a week. It starts in the morning and ends later in the day, so people are able to take that shuttle and get to various locations within the community. Our main point, our majority of people are going to the MSC and also seeking the services that are available there. We have a health clinic. We have a provider focused on benefits, a provider focused on getting people linked with work. So we want to make sure that we're continuing to get people linked to as many resources as possible.
Good, thank you. So just to clarify, there's a shuttle system, so there's no walking up. There's no walk-ups at the shelter, so we all go through the same point of entry system. Well, thank you so much. I don't see any additional questions. You got one over there? Okay, our last one. Yes, ma'am. We do at the conclusion. Yeah, at the conclusion, we'll step away and we'll have Spanish. Do we have Khmer? We have Spanish interpretation and Khmer interpretation today. Thank you. All right, any additional questions? Well, I just want to close just by thanking all of the partners. This is an incredible partnership, and we know that our challenges are great. We know that we need to rise up to the challenge of homelessness and the rising cost of housing impacting our communities, but the pathway forward is by working together. If we continue to work together across jurisdiction, nonprofit, public sector, private sector, and our community, then there's no challenge that we can't overcome. Thank you so much. So we'll now transition to Spanish interpretation.
En Spanish. Mi nombre es Luz Bonel Thompson and I am an interpreter. Buenas tardes. Durante la reunión del 13 de junio de 2023, el Consejo Municipal de Long Beach debatirá y votará la autorización para la compra de la propiedad ubicada en 702 West Anaheim Street, actualmente propiedad de Long Beach Rescue Mission Inc. Si la ciudad adquiere la casa, se utilizará como refugio permanente durante todo el año para personas que están pasando por una situación de falta de hogar. La apertura de una instalación de refugio provisional se identificó como uno de los objetivos a corto plazo establecidos al inicio de la proclamación del estado de emergencia local para personas sin hogar el 10 de enero de 2023. Con el apoyo de la supervisora, la señora Janice Hahn, y la directora general de la Oficina Ejecutiva del Condado de Los Ángeles, señora Feisha Davenport, el condado se ha comprometido a aportar $6.5 millones para la adquisición y rehabilitación de una instalación permanente de refugio y servicios para personas sin hogar. En respuesta a la proclamación del estado de emergencia de la ciudad y la finalización del programa de refugio de invierno de este año, que concluyó sus operaciones el 28 de abril de 2023, el personal de la ciudad identificó la disponibilidad de la propiedad privada que había sido puesta a la venta por la Long Beach Rescue Mission Foundation, Inc., la propiedad anteriormente utilizada por la ciudad como ubicación del programa de refugio de invierno se puso a disposición de la ciudad para su uso a corto plazo, sirviendo como un recurso crítico para continuar proporcionando refugio de emergencia después de que el refugio de invierno del hospital comunitario concluyera sus operaciones. Con ese fin, se negoció un contrato de arrendamiento a corto plazo en virtud de las órdenes de emergencia y la ciudad ha estado utilizando las 85 camas de la propiedad como un refugio de emergencia temporal desde el 27 de abril de 2023. Dado el uso anterior y actual de la propiedad como espacio de refugio, así como la asociación del condado para ayudar con la adquisición de una instalación permanente, la ciudad presentó una oferta a Long Beach Rescue Mission que acordó en vender la propiedad a la ciudad por el precio de compra de $7.2 millones. Los costos totales de adquisición y mejora de las instalaciones ascienden aproximadamente a $13.2 millones. First to Serve Ministers, Inc. seguirá encargándose del funcionamiento del refugio y prestará servicios de admisión, gestión de casos, duchas y aseos in situ, 3 comidas diarias, así como la seguridad y el transporte de ida y vuelta para los participantes del refugio. Además de los participantes del refugio, tendrán acceso a una variedad de servicios de gestión de casos, incluida la gestión de casos centrada en la vivienda y la gestión de casos centrada en el establecimiento de una salud mejor y suficiencia económica. Selección de programas de vivienda, programas de identificación de viviendas, ayuda para obtener identificación y documentos y conexiones con recursos de salud de comportamiento, entre otros servicios prestados por los centros de multiservicios. Antes de abrir el refugio de emergencia temporal en la propiedad, la ciudad llevó a cabo una reunión comunitaria el 13 de abril de 2023 para compartir los planes propuestos de un refugio de emergencia, donde los participantes de la reunión pudieron hacer preguntas, participar en discusiones y compartir sus comentarios que fueron recibidos con una abrumadora positividad y recomendaciones expresas para que el refugio sea permanente. Se invita a los miembros de la comunidad a participar en los comentarios públicos sobre este tema en persona en la reunión del ayuntamiento. Para obtener más información sobre los esfuerzos de la ciudad para reducir la falta de vivienda en Long Beach, pueden visitar longbeach.gov/homelessness y seguir LB Health Dep y Long Beach City en las redes sociales y seguir #EveryoneHomeLB. Gracias.
បាទសូមជម្រាបសួរបងប្អូនទាំងអស់គ្នានេះគឺជាសន្និសីទសារព័ត៌មានតាក់ទងនឹងការទិញអគារថ្មីសម្រាប់ទីជម្រករបស់បងប្អូនជនអនាថានៅក្នុងអំឡុងកិច្ចប្រជុំក្រុមប្រឹក្សាក្រុងឡុងប៊ិចនៅថ្ងៃអង្គារយើងខាងមុខនេះគឺថ្ងៃទី13ខែមិថុនាយើងនឹងពិភាក្សានឹងបោះឆ្នោតសម្រេចអនុញ្ញាតទិញអចលនទ្រព្យដែលមានទីតាំងនៅអគារលេខ702ផ្លូវ West Anaheim Street ដែលសប្តាហ៍ថ្ងៃទីតាំងនេះគឺជាកម្មសិទ្ធិរបស់អង្គការបេសកកម្មសង្គ្រោះក្រុងឡុងប៊ិចឬក៏ The Long Beach Rescue Mission នៅពេលដែលសាលាក្រុងឡុងប៊ិចទិញទីតាំងនេះបានយើងនឹងប្រើប្រាស់វាជាទីជម្រកអចិន្ត្រៃយ៍ពី1ឆ្នាំទល់1ឆ្នាំសម្រាប់បងប្អូនយើងដែលកំពុងរស់នៅក្នុងស្ថានភាពអនាថាដែលពួកគាត់មានកន្លែងជ្រកកោន បើការបើកដំណើរការអគារជ្រកបណ្ដោះអាសន្នកន្លងទៅគឺយើងចាត់ទុកថាជាការឆ្លើយតបទៅនឹងគោលដៅរយៈពេលខ្លីរបស់យើងព្រោះទីជម្រកបណ្ដោះអាសន្ននោះត្រូវបានបើកឲ្យដំណើរការនៅក្នុងដំណាក់កាលនៃបញ្ហាដែលទីក្រុងឡុងបិចរបស់យើងជួបបញ្ហាអនាថាជាបញ្ហាអាសន្នដែលត្រូវដោះស្រាយជាបន្ទាន់សេចក្តីប្រកាសនេះត្រូវបានក្រុមប្រឹក្សាក្រុងឡុងបិចចេញកាលពីថ្ងៃទី10ខែមករាឆ្នាំ2023បើជាមួយគ្នានេះដែរដោយមានការជួយឧបត្ថម្ភគាំទ្រពី Supervisor Janice Hahn និងមន្ត្រីនាយកប្រតិបត្តិនៃតំបន់ Los Angeles គឺអ្នកស្រី Facia De Wapon តំបន់ LA County បានផ្ដល់ថវិកាចំនួន$6.5 លានដើម្បីទិញទីតាំងនេះនិងរៀបចំស្ដារនីតិសម្បទាទៅកន្លែងនេះឲ្យទៅជាទីជម្រកអចិន្ត្រៃយ៍សម្រាប់ផ្ដល់កន្លែងស្នាក់នៅនិងសេវាសម្រាប់បងប្អូនជនអនាថាបើជាងនេះទៅទៀតដើម្បីឆ្លើយតបទៅនឹងសេចក្តីប្រកាសដាក់វិបត្តិនៃភាពអនាថាជាបញ្ហាប្រកាសអាសន្ននិងការបិទបញ្ចប់ដំណើរការទីជម្រកបណ្ដោះអាសន្ននារដូវត្រជាក់របស់ក្រុងឡុងបិចសម្រាប់ឆ្នាំនេះដែលបិទបញ្ចប់ដំណើរការកាលពីថ្ងៃទី28ខែមេសាឆ្នាំ2023មន្ត្រីសាលាក្រុងបានឃើញទីតាំងថ្មីមួយដែលជាអគារកម្មសិទ្ធិរបស់ឯកជនដែលបានដាក់លក់ដោយអង្គការបេសកកម្មសង្គ្រោះក្រុងឡុងបិចនេះអចលនទ្រព្យនេះកាលពីមុនគឺជាកម្មសិទ្ធិរបស់សាលាក្រុងដែលយកមកធ្វើជាទីជម្រកបណ្ដោះអាសន្នសម្រាប់រដូវត្រជាក់ហើយត្រូវបានដាក់ឲ្យសាលាក្រុងប្រើប្រាស់នៅក្នុងគោលបំណងដោះស្រាយបញ្ហារយៈពេលខ្លីដែលមែនទែនទៅអគារនេះគឺបានប្រើប្រាស់ជាប្រភពធនធានដ៏សំខាន់មួយនៅក្នុងការបន្តផ្ដល់ទីជម្រកបណ្ដោះអាសន្នដល់បងប្អូនជនអនាថារបស់យើងគឺនៅក្រៅពេលដែលទីជម្រកបណ្ដោះអាសន្នសម្រាប់រដូវត្រជាក់របស់មន្ទីរពេទ្យសហគមន៍ត្រូវបានបិទដំណើរការបើដោយយោងទៅលើសារៈសំខាន់នៅក្នុងការដោះស្រាយបញ្ហាអនាថានិងដោយស្របទៅតាមគោលដៅរយៈពេលខ្លីផងទើបយើងបានចរចាជួលទីតាំងនេះសម្រាប់រយៈពេលខ្លីក្រោមរូបភាពនៃបទបញ្ជាដែលគ្រាមានអាសន្នហើយសាលាក្រុងបានបន្តប្រើប្រាស់ទីតាំងអគារនោះដើម្បីបំពាក់ក្រែ85ក្រែសម្រាប់ទីជម្រកបណ្ដោះអាសន្នតាំងតែពីថ្ងៃទី27ខែមេសាឆ្នាំ2023មកម្លេះទន្ទឹមនឹងនោះគឺដោយសារតែការប្រើប្រាស់ទីតាំងនេះតាំងពីមុននិងពេលបច្ចុប្បន្នធ្វើជាទីធ្លាសម្រាប់ជម្រកបណ្ដោះអាសន្ននិងក្នុងភាពជាដៃគូពីខាងតំបន់ផងទើបជួយឲ្យមានប្រសិទ្ធភាពគឺឲ្យយើងមានលទ្ធភាពទិញទីតាំងនេះសម្រាប់ទីជម្រកអចិន្ត្រៃយ៍ផងសាលាក្រុងក៏បានដាក់ដេញថ្លៃអគារនេះពីអង្គការបេសកកម្មសង្គ្រោះក្រុងឡុងបិចដែលក្រោយមកអង្គការនេះក៏ព្រមលក់អគារនេះនៅក្នុងតម្លៃ$7.2 លានដូច្នេះសរុបទាំងថ្លៃទិញទីតាំងនិងថ្លៃជួសជុលកែលម្អទីតាំងនេះឡើងវិញនឹងត្រូវចំណាយអស់ប្រាក់ប្រមាណជា$13.2 លានប្រតិបត្តិការទីជម្រកនេះនឹងនៅតែបន្តជូនដោយអន្តរនាយកដ្ឋានដែលបម្រើសេវាប្រជាពលរដ្ឋជាចម្បងឬក៏ First to Serve Ministries ដែលផ្ដល់សេវាជូនដូចជាកត់ឈ្មោះគ្រប់គ្រងសំណុំរឿងផ្ដល់ទីកន្លែងងូតទឹកសម្អាតកាយនៅនឹងកន្លែងនិងផ្ដល់បន្ទប់ទឹកនិងផ្ដល់អាហារ3ពេលនៅក្នុងមួយថ្ងៃព្រមទាំងផ្ដល់ជំនួយសន្តិសុខនិងការដឹកជញ្ជូនសម្រាប់មកស្នាក់នៅទីជម្រកនេះដើម្បីសម្រួលដល់ការធ្វើដំណើររបស់ពួកគាត់ផងមិនតែប៉ុណ្ណោះអ្នកប្រើប្រាស់ទីជម្រកនឹងទទួលបានសេវាចម្រុះផ្នែកគ្រប់គ្រងសំណុំរឿងរួមទាំងសំណុំរឿងដែលពាក់ព័ន្ធខាងលំនៅឋាននិងសំណុំរឿងដែលផ្ដោតទៅលើការកែលម្អសុខភាពនិងសេដ្ឋកិច្ចជនអនាថាជាការជ្រើសរើសទៅការចូលរួមកម្មវិធីទទួលបានលំនៅឋានជំនួយទទួលបានអត្តសញ្ញាណប័ណ្ណនិងឯកសារបញ្ជាក់អត្តសញ្ញាណខ្លួនផ្សេងរួមទាំងការផ្សារភ្ជាប់ពួកគាត់ទៅនឹងធនធានផ្នែកសុខភាពផ្លូវចិត្តផងដែរបាទដែលទាំងនេះគឺជាសេវាចម្រុះមួយចំនួននៅក្នុងចំណោមសេវាជាច្រើនមុខដែលមានផ្ដល់ជូនដោយមជ្ឈមណ្ឌលភូសេវាផងបាទនៅមុនដំណើរការទីជម្រកបណ្ដោះអាសន្ននៅក្នុងគ្រាបន្ទាន់នៅទីតាំងអគារនេះសាលាក្រុងបានរៀបចំកិច្ចប្រជុំសហគមន៍មួយកាលពីថ្ងៃទី13ខែមេសាឆ្នាំ2023ដើម្បីជម្រាបជូនបងប្អូនសហគមន៍ឲ្យលោកបានជ្រាបអំពីផែនការដែលបានស្នើឡើងសម្រាប់ទីជម្រកបណ្ដោះអាសន្ននៅក្នុងគ្រាបន្ទាន់នេះនៅក្នុងកិច្ចប្រជុំសហគមន៍នោះបងប្អូនយើងបានលើកឡើងជាសំណួរនិងបានចូលរួមកិច្ចពិភាក្សានិងបានចែករំលែកមតិនិងគំនិតដែលជារួមបងប្អូនយើងភាគច្រើនលើសលប់សប្បាយចិត្តនិងលើកទឹកចិត្តឲ្យយើងរកទីតាំងណាមួយដើម្បីធ្វើជាទីជម្រកអចិន្ត្រៃយ៍បែបនេះបាទយើងខ្ញុំនៅតែស្វាគមន៍បងប្អូនសហគមន៍យើងឲ្យចូលរួមមកបញ្ចេញយោបល់បន្តទៅទៀតលើកជាគំនិតផ្សេងបន្ថែមទៀតនៅក្នុងកិច្ចប្រជុំផ្ទាល់នៅក្នុងកិច្ចប្រជុំក្រុមប្រឹក្សាក្រុងដែលនឹងប្រព្រឹត្តទៅនៅសាលាក្រុងនៅដើមសប្តាហ៍ខាងមុខនេះបាទបងប្អូនត្រូវការជ្រាបព័ត៌មានបន្ថែមអំពីកិច្ចខិតខំប្រឹងប្រែងរបស់សាលាក្រុងក្នុងការកាត់បន្ថយភាពអនាថានៅក្នុងទីក្រុងឡុងបិចរបស់យើងបងប្អូនអាចចូលមើលគេហទំព័រនេះគឺ longbeach.gov/homelessness និងតាមដានថាសារព័ត៌មានរបស់យើងនៅតាម @lbhealthdebt និង @longbeach series តាមប្រព័ន្ធផ្សព្វផ្សាយសង្គមនិងតាម #everyonehomelongbeach បាទសូមអរគុណសូមជម្រាបលា
you.